Awesome. And we are live at the same time. Awesome. Welcome back, you guys, to the EXP Family Tree live stream. If you're there, don't forget you can join via Zoom. As of next Monday, we're moving this call up by 30 minutes just to help those on the East Coast so it doesn't get in too far into their afternoon so that they can still be joining us on their lunch hour after their calls in the morning. So it's going to be 9:30 Pacific, 10:30 Mountain, 11:30 Central, and 12:30 Eastern. Same place, same Zoom link. And we're still going to come in here, keep it to hopefully 30 minutes. And we're going to kind of revamp it a little bit. We're still going to have Angie leading the call on the mindset side and Nikki leading the call on the market update side. But we're going to ask you guys, if you come in regularly, and we're going to be promoting this heavily starting after the 4th of July, that you guys put something that you want to accomplish for the week in the chat for accountability. Of course, if there's any questions that you guys have. And if we do have a few questions, we'll go a little bit longer than 30 minutes. Not, Nikki, you don't have to stay on for that whole time either, even you, Angie, but I just want to make sure people have a place that they can come every Monday and get the information and then have some sort of action. And we'll be here, the three of us, to help you guys do that. So this is also recorded and Angie puts it out on her YouTube channel. So if you guys need that, you can find her in work chat. But we're going to go ahead and get started now. So Nikki, what's going on in the market?
Awesome. Well, hello, everyone. And good morning and happy 4th of July week. It's exciting. I see Angie's festive today. That's perfect.
I love it.
I love it. So the market took a little bit of a turn on Friday and today in the bond market. We got a little bit of rate increase, I guess, is the overall, way to put it. We are now into the low to mid sevens. Last week we were in the high sixes, low sevens. So there's been some disruption and some volatility in the market. We expect that to correct, over time. It's just that the Fed, they have a new member that's starting. She's starting in the beginning of July, and it's just kind of upsetting everything that's in the market right now. So we are definitely just kind of chilling on as far as just waiting for the rates to come back down. But yeah, not a lot of news to report, just some volatility there that we've been experiencing, which is nothing new for today or for this year, I even should say. So what I wanted to talk about today, a huge topic that's actually came up in a couple of purchase agreements that I had accepted over the last week, has been inspections, repairs on inspections, and how that affects the lending process. What do we need to know as lenders? What do we not need to know? And how can we work through to make sure that any seller paid closing costs or addendum to purchase price or anything from that can be nice and clean and crisp in the process from a mortgage standpoint. So we all know the difference between an inspection and an appraisal. On an inspection, there's only certain things that we as the lender want to see. And an appraisal can have some repairs that get called out, and we'll discuss that as well. But specifically on the inspection, there's two different ways of looking at this. First and foremost, in the state of Minnesota, you can write an addendum to a purchase agreement that's extremely nondescript, and those addendums aren't necessarily numbered the way that they would be in a state like Arizona. So in a state like Arizona and some other states, anytime you make any change to a purchase agreement, even if it's just a line item or a strike through or anything from that standpoint, you have to do an addendum, and those addendums have to be numbered. Not only are they numbered, but they're 1 out of 7, 2 out of 7. So we're going to need to see every single addendum. So in the state of Minnesota, you have to have all your addendums. However, they aren't out of, and we can, give the addendums as needed from a lending standpoint. When you guys are doing an inspection on the property and there are items that need to be fixed or replaced, those items are few. There's very few items that we want to see as a lender. Okay. So my advice to you is, if at all possible, on your addendum, write purchase agreement price changes or purchase price changes and seller paid concessions only. It can be something extremely simple. Seller agrees to pay $1,500 towards buyer's closing costs. Inspection contingency is lifted. That's all we need to know. Okay. Or purchase price is X amount of dollars is changed to X amount of dollars. Inspection contingency is removed. Same thing that goes in Arizona. Arizona is a little bit different because you have to list, items and things like that. We, on a conventional loan, won't have the appraiser check to see if those items have been fixed. We will confirm with the buyer that they are fixed to their satisfaction, if that makes sense. If in the state of Minnesota as well, if you put items that are going to be fixed on an addendum, again, if for a conventional loan, we will not require the appraiser to go out there and check if those items have actually been fixed. We will only talk to the client and have the confirmation via email that they are satisfied with the repairs that were needing to be made. Now, with that being said, there are certain limitations to that. Let's say there's a sewer line that needs to be repaired, or there's something having to do with a well, or something having to do with a health and safety issue that is not only applied to the FHA or government side, but also can apply to whether or not the home is inhabitable. Then we will need to see receipts for repairs of those larger items or those items that affect the inhabitability of that home. So like I said, examples of that: sewers, well issues, broken windows all over the place, things of that nature. So be very careful as a realtor how you word things, and be very careful as to how your clients have that understanding of what's on those addendums and what the understanding is between the buyers and the sellers, so that you guys are all covered and that we don't run into additional issues as we're moving through the process from a lending standpoint. Now, every situation can be very, very, very specific to that client. So please reach out. Please ask me. Please say, hey, how should I word this? What would be the best way? What is the easiest way? Now, with that in mind, on an FHA or a VA side of things, where there's government stuff, anything that affects the health and safety standard that is mentioned on an addendum, regardless of whether or not it shows up on the appraisal, anything that we need to verify that has been repaired and fixed via receipts, etc. Okay, so keep that in mind on a government loan. It's a little bit more stringent. On the appraisal side, if there is a repair that is called out, no matter what that repair is, it doesn't matter if it's conventional, government, whatever the loan program is, it doesn't matter. If there's a repair that's called out on the appraisal, resolution to that needs to be made before closing. There's two opportunities for resolution. Number one, it gets fixed. We see our receipts. We're good to go. We have the appraiser go out there and either check that it's been fixed or via receipts, and they give us a final inspection. Number two would be if we have the opportunity to either escrow for the repair, or if it's a larger repair, flip the loan over to a renovation loan in order to include that repair on the buyer side. So things that are allowed to be escrowed: weather-related items, sometimes larger items, like let's say there's an issue with a well or a septic and the septic guys can't get out there until after closing. Sometimes we will allow for an escrow for that. We can escrow for some really minor items too. Let's just say there's a piece of siding that needs to be replaced and we can't, the handyman can't get out there until a week after closing. Things of that nature, we can make accommodations for. Those accommodations are a case-by-case basis from an escrow standpoint, but most of the time, if something is called out on an appraisal, it needs to be fixed before closing most of the time, unless it's weather related or we can make an exception. So keep those things in mind as you're talking with your clients about negotiating purchase prices, negotiating any repairs that need to be made, negotiating on seller paid closing costs. And then one other thing that is key to all of this: if you are going to include seller paid closing costs as kind of like a satisfaction for items that have came up on the appraisal, make sure you check with your lender on the limits for seller paid closing costs. I had an incident 2 weeks ago where they went and did an inspection. There were some items that needed to be fixed, and the realtor took it upon themselves to write in $14,000 in seller paid closing costs. Our limit on that particular loan was $10,000. So the buyer ended up losing out on $4,000 worth of funds to make the repairs that needed to be made because the realtor did not check with us to make sure that those closing costs were not at that limit. And by the time all was said and done, the buyer was not very happy. The seller was extremely happy because they got $4,000 more in their pocket, and we were in danger of not closing in general. So keep those things in mind. It doesn't just affect like, oh, I can't show this to the lender. Check with us before you do anything so that we know we're following all of our guidelines on our side, which you may or may not even think about down the road while you're doing those inspection items.
Any questions or thoughts on that, you guys? Good information. That's actually really good. And obviously, Nikki is sharing from a perspective of a lender. So if you work with a lender in your state, this is the same perspective is if you're doing that. I think a great advice you just gave is you need to check with your lender on how do you want to see this written. Hopefully, if they're experienced, they'll know how to share that with you. And if not, you can reach out to Nikki. But that's important to like join forces with your loan officer, the lender you work with when you're writing offers, because all of these things matter. And if you have a very good experienced loan officer, they should be able to guide you in that from their perspective, not just from yours on the real estate side. You kind of have to look at it from both angles when you're working with a client. So that was really good advice.
Yeah, and I love it. And so Nikki, one thing came up. So you talked about appraisals and inspections, two different things. So is there, in the event, or can this happen where we catch something in an inspection, but not in the appraisal, and therefore that's where you don't want them really to be, you don't want to be aware of them because then you have to take action? Does that happen?
Correct. Yeah. So it all depends on what the repair is and how much we're looking at here. So think of an inspection as like a completely separate item from the lending side. That happens outside. It's voluntary. It doesn't need to happen. We don't need to see it, any of those things. So that's a completely separate part of the lending side of things. So if you can not tell us, we would rather not know, because the things that show up on an appraisal are going to be fewer and far between versus an inspection. In a conventional loan, you're not going to have an appraiser go into a property and turn on water. It's just not going to happen. In an FHA, they will, but not on a conventional. They're not going to really care about peeling paint. They're not going to care about, they're not going to be doing a septic inspection. They're not going to be doing a well side of it. They're not going to be doing those items. And so therefore, a lot of times the appraiser can give us what's called an as-is appraisal. And we don't even need to know that things are happening from an inspection standpoint. Clean and clear and simple as possible is usually what works best for us as far as from a lending side. I'm not saying that if the sellers or the buyers are saying we want to be extremely clear on the addendum, that you can't necessarily do that. Just know that it has additional items and additional things that we need to do then on the lending side in order to satisfy those items. And please don't send me an inspection. Because once I see it, I kind of can't unsee it. So do not send me an inspection. And also try not to send me a seller disclosure statement, because anything that's been repaired, anything that's on that seller disclosure statement that I have knowledge of, I can't necessarily unsee it, if that makes sense. So keep your seller disclosures out of there and keep your inspection items out of there as much as possible.
I love how you said that. I've never heard it quite that way. It's separate. It's voluntary.
Mm-hmm.
We don't want to see it on the lending side. I've known that, but that was just a great way to visually think about it in your head, or when you're doing this, like almost like put it in buckets. Like it's in its own bucket. Don't commingle across them, because that could just open a whole new bucket of problems that you don't
Exactly.
your buyers and the listing. Yeah, absolutely. That's great. Good. Thank you. Anybody have any questions? Why we have Nikki?
Or anything that's going on this week that you want to quick mastermind around?
Oh boy, what's going on this week?
New situations come up over the weekend.
They do. And you know what? I will say that, like, recommendations from you guys on things that you have questions about, or things that even come up on your end, you can always reach out to me, and I can do those as subjects on this call as well. I mean, any suggestions I'm definitely open to. Sometimes I just have a really slow week. I mean, this 4th of July week is notoriously extremely slow as far as, people going, oh, I think I'll try to buy a house around 4th of July. So it's one of those things where, this week is just kind of we kind of take a week to catch up and talk to people about our, just say happy 4th of July or happy 4th of July week and things like that. So yeah, that's kind of how this week is.
Yeah, I think that is a great thing to do. I mean, first and foremost, I guess what I think about this week is it's a short week. And so getting your activities done in 3 days instead of 5, so that you can go enjoy 2. And there is a whole philosophy around working harder, fewer days a week, and actually being more productive. If you have read about the, the 4-day work week and all those things, there's a lot of psychology behind that. So I feel like we always build up this like urgency to get things done when we're in anticipation for taking some time off, because that's how our mind works. And so we can create that week to week, obviously, by trying to take half Fridays in the summer or all Fridays in the summer and getting the exact same things done Monday through Thursday. I see people do that really successfully. And sometimes it's the motivation they need to actually work harder those days. And we don't need to, we'll fill the time allotted no matter what time we have. That's what we do as humans. So we just have to give ourselves the tasks that we need to get accomplished to feel good about it. Whatever amount of time we give ourselves to do it, we can get it done in. And so I guess that's the message for a holiday week. But also, if there are clients out there talking to you, they're probably very serious. So if for some reason you aren't looking to be out of town, and there are some people that aren't because they're doing it at a different time in the summer or whatever the case may be, it's not always a bad idea if you have a good listing opportunity to go check it out and try to do an 1.5 or 2 hour open house and get a little work done. The reason why is because you might have less people, but if you have anybody, it's probably a pretty serious person. So there's a little bit of a philosophy around that as well. Or just getting out there at the beginning of this week and making this holiday week, middle of the year, kick off to kind of summer, if you will, for a lot of people, a good time to just reach out to friends, family sphere, things like that. Oftentimes, hey, just wanted to wish you a happy holiday weekend, be safe, and let's touch base after the holiday, because I bet, you're going to get closer to wanting to move forward with your goals. Lots of people want to move forward with moving goals by the time school starts, as an example. Well, they need to get on it right after the 4th of July if that's what they want to do. So it's a good way and a good reason to reach out to your sphere in that regards as well. Angie, any other tips that you might have for today?
Yeah, it went right into it, actually. Your whole thing about the 4-day work week and calendar. So I talked earlier last week about the calendar, and I really want to emphasize, when you say yes to something, what are you saying no to? And really the time allowed, yes, Carrie, absolutely. You will just take what you need to do that could take this much time and stretch it out. It's just human nature. So really start focusing on your calendar, looking at it, and setting yourself up to win. And really think about any meetings, anything that maybe are not producing like you thought they would, or you block this time out to do this certain thing and you're just not doing it. Delete it off your calendar and fill it with something you will show up and do, and that will move your business forward. It's so very important. And I'm coaching a lot of agents on that right now as well. And Carrie, I keep quoting you, and I would love for you to even just touch on this a little bit today. There aren't many business problems that come across our desk that are not solvable. If it's a true business problem, it's solvable. It's all the other stuff that we drag into our business that stops us in our tracks. It's either self-image, confidence, caring too much what other people care about, thinking you don't know enough. I mean, there's so many different things that keep you from taking action. And it's really just doing 1% better than you did yesterday, and really looking at what it is that's stopping you. If you are stopping from doing something or not taking action, I can almost guarantee, and Kara, I'd love to hear your take on it, it's not a business problem.
Yeah, no, it's definitely not. I mean, usually when we are having problems in our business, the path of least resistance is to say that there's some sort of challenge with business or the market or whatever it might be. And in reality, it's really us just not being able to get ourselves to do the things that we know we need to do oftentimes. And so that might just simply be, we're not as focused as we could be. Maybe we need to get out there and move our body a little bit more. Maybe we need to get a morning routine to kind of get ourselves into focus. Maybe we just need to start earlier on our business in the morning, because that's when we're naturally more focused and more energized. Maybe we need to have some sort of relationship in our life that is really distracting us, repaired, or at least to a place where we're not distracted about it. We need to really be honest with ourselves, like what is actually really distracting us, and what measures can we put in place to get ourselves into daily activity? Because there really isn't anything in business that isn't solvable. There really isn't a magic button to real estate. In fact, if you just went out there and talked to more people, you would get more real estate transactions. And oftentimes we don't even have to be good at what we're doing. We don't even have to be good at what we're saying. We don't even have to know what we're saying. We just have to actually talk to more people. And if we really believe and understand that that is the true thing about this business, then there really just is no excuse. other than we just need to figure something out in our own life. Typically, that is going to just make us more equipped to be a better, just to be a better entrepreneur, right? And entrepreneurship isn't easy. Otherwise, everybody do it. And so we have to, give ourselves grace in that, but we also have to be willing to be accountable. And I think for a lot of people, it's just hard on the ego to admit that, the reasons we're not achieving our goal is because we can't get ourselves to do something. That's never a fun conversation, but it is a reality for most people. It's why people don't succeed in entrepreneurship. So the good news is you're not alone and you don't have to beat yourself up about it. But in fact, if you find yourself in that place, then I would encourage you to come here every Monday, get a little bit of a mindset and motivation moment to start your week out. Set something for the week that you absolutely are willing and committed to do, and put it in the chat for all of us so we can hold you accountable. And you can really just not just hold it inside and then not hold yourself accountable, but rather tell somebody else. You'll tend to show up for other people in a different way than you'll show up for yourself. So that's just the reality of who we are as humans. So I just encourage you to use this space to do that. And just be honest with yourself. If you're denying the reality, then you're not going to change something. If you are, okay, yep, I'm not achieving my goals because I've got to figure a few of these things out. That's the first step, is, becoming aware of what it is and then accepting it and then moving forward and taking an action. And that's what we're here for you guys, is to give you some great information to know about your business, to take away for the week, to gain confidence, hopefully to go talk to clients about, and then really just to come in here and start your week off with some motivation. Because if you don't do that, you can get yourself stuck in a rut and not really accomplish your goals pretty easily.
I love it. Thank you. Anybody want us to hold you accountable for next week's call?
Yeah. Anybody want to say something that they're going to plan to do? You can chat it in the chat box or unmute yourself.
Yeah. All it takes is 1% better. You're only competing against yourself.
So I'll commit to sending out my holiday messages to past clients. So
Awesome.
we send out about 700. So we've got a lot of messages that we send out. So I'm going to commit to getting that done this week.
How many do you do?
About 700.
Awesome.
Yeah, obviously we've had business for a long time, but there's the clients that we picked out that have meaning for us, either on a personal level, or clients that we know are going to transact within the next 3 years, or clients that have, just really referred business to us. So it's kind of those three categories are who we reach out to, and that list builds and builds. And then over time, if we don't get, any response over holiday text or whatever it is, it's one of our reach outs. If we aren't getting responses from them or whatever, they kind of tend to just fade off the list as we add more people in. So we try to keep it under, a overwhelming amount, but yeah, 700 is a lot this year.
Yeah, for sure.
Love it.
We got this. Anybody else?
Oh, this is Chrissy.
Hi.
Hi. I don't know that I'm going to commit to something for this week. I did get an invite to go to my daughter's in-laws cabin for a couple days, so I'm taking advantage of that.
Good.
But I will think about it here, and I'll post in our workplace group chat a commitment for the following week.
Yes.
Yeah, I think this week is going to be slow. Of course, I had a listing go on Friday, and it's just been crickets. So it's very slow. I think a lot of people headed out of town last weekend to take the full week. So
for sure.
So all good.
Awesome.
All good.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think that this week, if you put a listing on, you might see it be a little bit slower. That's okay. Just prepare your sellers for that. Again, if there is somebody looking, they're probably pretty serious, but do a lot of marketing, get it out there, get awareness, start marketing for the following week, open houses, because I think that's when you'll start seeing some activity. I know, Alexis, you just put a listing on and kind of experience the same thing, but that's pretty common this time of year. So yeah.
I've been told this time is the slowest of the entire year, including around the holidays. I know I've shown homes on December 24th. So, but yeah, it's
I've done pre-approvals on Christmas Day. So
yeah, you just never know.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, everyone. We're looking forward to some accountability starting next week. So let us help you, and let's pour into each other. And like Carrie said, will show up more often for others. So let's just do this collectively and get some.
Yes,
movement.
I agree.
Love it.
Awesome, you guys. Have a great holiday if we don't see you. Safe travels or whatever you're doing with family, friends. And if you need anything, you can always work chat any of us. Otherwise, we'll see you back here on Monday.
Okay.